wish Mother was here.
This is the Candyland Hour for all good children. The orchestra will play our theme song.
You know that song, don't you?
Sure I do.
Well, then sing it.
Hello, welcome to Pursuit Table Talk. This is Pastor Mike Hofer, and I'm joined by
Evan Ammon,
Noah Barfield,
Kristen Hofer,
and this is episode number 16. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming back once again and listening to us on the air.
Actually,
last
I think
week.
it's 17.
No, I
Wait,
think this is
I think
16.
it's 16. Last week was 15.
Yep, again, I'm right.
Yeah, no, he's right, because episode 14 was the family ministry.
It depends on what you...
I think I'm always right,
13
actually.
was technically 12B.
No, yeah, but this is still...
But then on the podcast
this would still
app,
be 15. Yeah, because I made 12B actually 13.
Yeah.
And then 14.
really
This is 15.
confused
Now,
me.
we're on 16 now.
Yeah.
So 16, but technically 15.
Yes.
Okay.
But online
Now that
it
we
will
cleared
say,
all that up.
I promise you it will say episode 15.
Yeah.
No, 16. 17.
16.9.
27. 23.
27.
Okay. So it's episode 16.
You're right.
Thanks for
You're
joining
right.
us.
I was wrong.
I know.
Oh.
I'm always right.
Hello, welcome to Pursuit Table Talk.
I was
No
wrong. I was wrong.
comment.
I was wrong once.
We're
And then I
already
realized I
going
was
down.
wrong about that. So
Moving on.
thanks for joining us today. Miss Kristen is back with us. Thank you for being here, honey. I love you.
Thank you. I missed it.
I think you're pretty.
Ryan did an awesome job, though, in my place.
I still think you're beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
You want to get married?
I think we already did that.
What? Okay, I guess. No, Ryan did awesome in your absence last week.
Yeah.
We recorded, if you have not listened to episode 15 yet, we recorded it at youth camp. It was a lot of fun. Had a
Yeah.
lot of our students on it. Just talking about what they were most looking forward to camp, because it was like the day before we actually started senior high camp. And so today we want to begin with just a little bit of camp talk. Kristen was not there, but
I was not.
you can still kind of interject some opinion and of
Maybe I can
youth camp
talk.
days of Camp Fowler in upstate New York.
I mean, I've been to the camp before.
You have been to the camp in Missouri before.
I could maybe give a view from our children,
Sure.
because, they have just nonstop talked about it. So.
Yep. I can tell you that I've talked to a couple parents, and every student so far has been just so pumped about camp. And just can't wait to go back, and it was just such a great experience. And
Amen.
so we want to talk about camp for a little bit, from Evan and Noah's perspective of actually being there, and my perspective of preaching and being there, and in your perspective of just a mom who sent 2 kids and also someone who's been there before.
Yo,
So
we got all the stops here.
We
A
got-
cabin leader, a student, the preacher, and even one of the parents.
That's
Like,
right.
We got
Oh, we
that's
did
right.
good. Not
That's
even
how we do
planned.
it. We're so diverse.
everything. We don't have
Diversity is
a
our
worship
core
leader, though.
value.
We don't have a worship leader, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, wait, yeah.
Yeah. Noah was going to lead worship, and then they didn't, but that's
Oh,
okay.
you were?
We didn't have
Actually,
enough
no,
time to
it
prepare.
wasn't.
It was all
No,
right.
I was helping them organize it.
It was
I
okay.
gotcha. Okay.
It's all right. So Evan, what was your favorite part of camp, and then what was kind of one big thing that you took away from camp? Not something you stole. Like if you stole something,
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
The
But
whole bed.
Good.
I brought home a mattress.
That would be
I was about
weird.
to start opening
My
up
one
about
big
all the
my
things
one
in
big
suitcase.
takeaway was a mattress.
All the kids you have in your
Stole some
suitcase.
kid's iPhone.
Oh man. One of my favorite-ish things on the trip was just my boy Isaiah. We had some really interesting times on this trip.
Who's Isaiah?
He's one of my buddies from last year. We stayed in the same cabin last year, so I knew him, but we weren't staying in the same cabin this year because he betrayed us and joined Josh's cabin, which is the way overstacked cabin that wins every single year. And
It's rigged.
It's rigged. It's
all rigged.
I hate the team, but I love the players.
And you guys need to get your athleticism up. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
Get it up.
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it.
Hey, they didn't get a clean sweep. We beat them in one.
Go recruit a bunch of athletes from
Yeah.
Northside and
I'll get
and
LeBron
We
James.
need
Columbus
Marshall.
next year, and then we'll put one athletic cabin together and we'll just smoke them. That's my theory. what we should do.
I'm down.
We'll start planning. Anyway, Evan.
Don't go the LeBron James route and make excuses.
I
and cry.
feel like we won.
Like, don't do that.
I feel like Respect Women won.
Did you play the whole game did you play the whole camp with a broken hand?
Yeah.
A self-inflicted broken
Last
hand?
3 games. First game,
Ish.
I was good.
Allegedly.
Really?
So, Evan,
Anyway.
back to what you were
We're
saying.
gonna talk LeBron
My
again.
boy.
Every week
Your boy Isaiah.
We're going to throw LeBron in somehow every week.
Oh, wow. My boy Isaiah. So I had to get him back for joining Josh's cabin and betraying us like that. So I found like one of those water guns when everybody was spraying each other, mostly just Carter was. And I filled it up with toilet water.
Now, you have to say what type of water
Oh,
this
yeah,
is.
that's funny.
What?
This wasn't a gun.
Like
It was
the
like
It was
plunger.
like one of those like
Crayon.
tube
plunger,
things
yeah,
that
yeah.
you stick in, you pull
It's
the
a
handle
plunger
out.
gun.
Yeah, yeah,
Plunger
yeah.
gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I pull it out of the toilet water, and to be fair, I pulled out one of the good toilets.
It's
in the
clean toilet
sanctuary.
water.
Good
Yeah, yeah,
toilet
I
water,
got
not
you.
one of the cabins that Noah took a dookie in and broke.
I did take.
Not this Noah, the other Noah.
I did take at least 2 dookies in that sanctuary toilet.
I mean,
I ain't gonna
really?
lie. Oh yeah.
But it's still not as bad as the other ones. Like one of
No,
them straight
not even at all.
broke, cracked in
Yeah.
half because of Noah Owens. But
Savage.
Noah clogged at least 3 toilets.
Yes.
last
And
week.
then broke the plunger trying to unclog it.
anyways, I go and spray my friend Isaiah, and he was so angry. He straight grabbed me. The only thing that saved me that night was because there was a challenge about to start, and the leader said, "No, let's settle this after the challenge. Come on." So the rest of the trip, next 3 days, he's staring me down. Like every time I look around, he is straight staring down at me or giggling with one of his friends.
And Isaiah's much bigger than you.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
oh wow. And
That leads us to.
yes. So we were all sitting around, hanging out outside, and one day after playing some Ultimate, and we tried to throw Pastor Mike in the kiddie pool that had been run through the night before
They didn't give me.
with
They don't know.
every single child in the camp.
He used to have people try to do that all the time. Throw them in
really?
the river with leeches
I can
Ooh.
still run.
at the other camp.
I would just
Ooh.
like to clarify that I gave you your phone back so that they had an excuse, or you had an excuse not
They
to
were
be thrown
they
in.
were never gonna
So,
catch me.
I helped
We
you.
weren't gonna get
You
you.
could have
Okay.
held that phone till we came home because they were
Yeah.
never gonna catch me.
No, you were never gonna get you.
So
No.
But just literally every single student had run through that kiddie pool. It was sitting out in the hot sun for a full day.
It was gross. It was
gross.
It was
nasty.
literally the
Pine
worst
straw,
water I've ever seen.
dirt.
I'd have
It
rather
was
got thrown in the
brown.
river.
It was straight brown.
It was awful. It sat there for an entire week.
Oh wow.
And then
Every middle school and high school
Oh, yeah,
camper
both camps.
that
wow.
were there,
You're
their
just
you
making
had
it
all the
worse.
sweaty middle school boys go
their
through
dead
that.
skin was in
Oh,
that
yeah,
water.
man.
oh, that's disgusting. Okay, what happened?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Isaiah
gross water.
comes out of nowhere, grabs me, starts dragging me to the kiddie pool. And so, even though he's much larger than me, I was
gave him a good
about to
fight.
get away.
Yeah, to
I was
Evan's
about to get
credit.
away,
Yeah.
but your son, your son, for some
He
reason,
traded on you.
he betrayed me.
He said you deserved it since you threw toilet water on him.
"Yeah,
Oh, Tim.
Yeah.
Tim don't play with toilet water.
No,
No.
Tim's like his daddy like that. We don't
My
do toilet
shoes
games.
and everything.
Like we don't do
Everyone's fully
toilet games at my house because if I'm on the toilet or in the bathroom, don't talk to me. Like
Yeah.
don't speak to me.
He locks the door.
Don't act like I'm eating. Act like I left the house. Like I don't want to have a conversation with you. I don't want my wife standing in the bathroom while
No.
I'm going to the bathroom. Like that's.
That's your private
I don't
time.
do any of that. Like that's. We don't do toilet games
That's
at
your
our
point
house.
of
That's
silence
right.
and
That's,
solitude.
that's exactly what
It
is.
is.
Hashtag coming next. Yeah, so
So
that's
you
fun.
were-
So
were
what was one
thrown-
thing? What was one thing you took away from it?
One thing I took
Other
away
than
from it.
don't mess with Isaiah.
Well, I just thought it was really amazing. Like, it was just God spoke to me before my camp. Just my role.
Yeah.
That camp wasn't going to be about me. It wasn't going to be a camp where I took away something really
Yeah.
huge and momentous and left the camp just radically changed.
Mhm.
He really spoke to me saying, this is your role this week is for others,
Yeah.
to be there for others, to be a leader. And I didn't really understand it at first, but he so
good.
spoke that week, and that was really great.
And I'm gonna talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah.
here when it's my turn, about that whole like, it wasn't this like radical change kind of camp.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about that for a little bit in
Yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
But yeah, that's good, Evan. Amen. So Noah, what's your favorite part, and what was one thing you took away?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick, the most impactful thing and the most favorite thing, just because so many different things happen. From naming the cabins and us being the Respect Women Police cabin, which to Evan's credit was a good name.
Yours was my second favorite.
What was your first favorite?
First favorite was a girls' team that just called themselves Flag.
Oh,
That
Flag.
was good.
That was Anna Claire Moore's team.
You just called yourselves Flag.
Just Flag.
Fried lettuce,
Oh.
applesauce, green beans.
And then
Anna's in the room.
They
so
had a
we can ask-
flag.
we
They had a
can
flag, and they had to decorate the flag like classic camp stuff.
Mhm.
And instead of decorating their flag, they just wrote the word flag on it.
do you know what?
I
And
love
so
it.
then
on
they
their
were the
t-shirts?
flag.
Did you see? Yeah, they put T-shirt on their T-shirts.
Yeah.
The T-shirts just said.
But anyway,
I love it.
that's not
I
my,
love
my
it.
favorite thing.
Right.
My favorite thing was at the end of camp every year, or at least what we have seen, which is 2 years, they do a talent show. And one of the boys from Missouri, Coleman, shout out to Coleman, did a skit, or not a skit, a little song that's online called like the Toaster song. I think it's called Yeah Toast.
Yes, Yeah
And we
Toast.
didn't know about it beforehand. He just walks up and he's a big dude. And he has this little toaster strapped around his neck and like 2 spoons or forks. And we're like, what is he gonna do? And he like starts this drum beat. Like it's like a almost like a 80s type of drum beat, but it's on a little toaster, so it's kind of like and then he just goes into this like
good.
very well made song. And it's just hilarious because the chorus is just, yeah, toast!
Yeah.
And then silence. And he's just like, ah! And he just screams into the microphone.
It was a
We were-
screamo song. So
Yeah,
of course it was,
basically,
it was
yeah.
Noah's favorite.
It was absolutely hilarious.
I actually
So,
looked.
so that was one of my
when we
favorite
started.
funny things that happened. And then just a big thing I took away was just really thankfulness. Because I've been praying and praying for the camp before, and we had prayed the night before camp started just for God to move and for Him to come and to have His will done at the camp. And just through each night, I just felt like it was happening more and more. Just through different conversations with different students,
Yeah.
and different small group sessions. It just felt like God was just answering that prayer more and more. And it's so hard to just
Yeah.
say it like that because there's so many different things. I could just sit here for a longer podcast and just talk about things that He did and students at camp. But yeah, just thankfulness for what He's done, and then taking that and just using that to increase my own personal faith and say, when anything tries to bring doubt, I can look back on this
That's good.
on top of all the other stuff that He's ever done and say, God is faithful because He's done this, so I know that later on He will do something even greater.
Yes, right. That's good. So Chris, what did you as a
What was my favorite
parent,
part of the week?
other than the alone time,
Silence and
Silence
solitude.
and solitude.
or the flowers that sent you?
Yes.
Aw.
Yes.
That's how I roll.
Thursday.
That's how I roll.
That was a surprise. He never even said anything about it.
Nope. That's why it's a surprise.
I actually went.
If I'd have told you about it,
changed
it wouldn't have been a
office-
surprise.
That's true.
That'd have been like, hey, heads up, flowers are coming.
That's true. Well, sometimes you like ask me, hey, did you get anything today? Or, you kind of hint at it.
Well, it's kind of hard to do that when you're in the woods with no
yeah,
signal.
you didn't have any signal.
Like,
So I just showed up at my other office, switch offices on Thursdays from one to the other, and I show up there and some random person's handing me flowers. I'm like, what is this? And they're like,
are
I don't
you?
know. They've been sitting here for about an hour now. I think they're yours. Nobody could figure out who they were for, even though my name was on it. But they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know me.
booyah.
They don't know me very well. So they were like, I think these are yours, but they're beautiful. They're still beautiful.
You're beautiful.
Oh. Anyway,
So as a parent,
yes.
what was your favorite part about camp? No. What did you expect from camp, and have you seen any reaction from the little humans that live in our house?
I wouldn't say Tim is a little human.
No, he's not little.
It's kind of hard because we've been going to this camp for so long, and so expectation
15
is
years.
Man, the worship there is just so amazing, and it always has been. Even when we started
always
going
has
there,
been.
like
Always.
I actually helped lead worship there, just showing up, and they needed a keyboard player, and I played, and so Andy and I have led worship together before, but I just know that I know our kids were anticipating that. They love it there, and from the stories that I get, Alex is so proud of Tim. because of him coming out of his shell and talking and communicating, and he feels comfortable there, and that's awesome. I really love that. He talked my ear off about it.
Yeah.
Just
That's
all the
good.
things that happened, and but now he's back into his.
Yeah, he's in
he's
shell.
taking
He
some
said too
time
much.
off.
He's like, I gotta
He
get
has
some.
his recharge.
I gotta
day.
get some silence and solitude in.
Yeah, he's definitely recharging right now. I don't know. That's all I got.
That's good. I mean,
I feel full. Like my kids are happy, so I feel full.
yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, one of my buddies, our buddy from Matt, lives in Missouri, Matt Dickinson, and he came by the Camp Cups. Matty used to help us plant churches. He moved with us to South Dakota. Before we even planted churches, he was a worship intern at one of my youth ministries, and then he moved to Alabama with us. Then he moved back to South Dakota with us, and then he moved to Charlotte with us.
Yeah.
And so he's been with us for a long time. He lived with us for about 6 years, and love Matty. And he came to visit us at camp. And it's funny because he knows Tim. He's known Tim forever, and he's known Alex since she was a baby. And Alex comes in to see him in the kitchen, and she didn't really
She didn't know he was there.
No, she didn't know he was coming. I didn't tell her on purpose. And at first she just kind of stopped, like she's like stunned, and then she just like jumps on him and starts crying because she hadn't seen him in such a long time. And that's just her. That's her soft heart. And then we're like, hey, you want to just go check out Tim before you leave? And you guys were all praying in your cabins, and so we go over there, and they get done praying. And on the way over, me and Matt are having a conversation, and Matt said, "Man, we're gonna walk all the way over here, and we're just gonna say, hey, Tim," and he's gonna go, "Hey." Like, just because that's just Tim. But we got over there, man, and Matt was like, "Hey, Tim," and he's like, "Matt, what's up, man? How you been?" And I was shocked. I wanted to fall down, like, that's my son speaking full sentences. And Matt was even taken back a little bit, and they shook hands and talked for a little bit. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. He is kind of coming out of his little shell, which is really cool. So I love him. But my favorite part about camp was the prayer walk we had before camp. Like, not even during camp, but just before camp. I thought that was huge. And there were a few people, like we had one guy with us that's not from our group, Chris, and he did it, and he was just floored. He's like, I've never done this before in my life. And he's like, this is awesome. He said, I've never even heard of this, like a prayer walk.
Who was he with?
He was from Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And he was just there with us that night. And he's just like, man, I've never done this before. He said, that was awesome. And it was just deep and rich. And so I really love that part about camp. But then I'll tell you, and I reflected on this just the last day or so. And even before camp, I got this sense from God that this wasn't going to be like your typical youth camp where there's just this massive high one night and 80 people come to the altar and they're crying and you got 30 people get saved. And I just got this sense that wasn't what this was going to be about. That there were a lot of students coming that were solid Christians who just needed to take another step in their faith. Like,
growth.
Even if it was just a baby step, they needed to move forward in their faith. And so intentionally all week, it wasn't about the salvation message. Like, it wasn't about the feel good message. And I've said this many times in my lifetime. I could feel an altar. Like, I am a decent enough communicator, and I know what buttons to push. I know how to get the feels going, and I can feel an altar if that's what it was about. Like, I could get people to come to the altar. That's not a problem. But that wasn't what it was about, and I don't think that's what it's ever about. And this camp, just God really laid it on my heart that this is more about depth, and let's go deep on some things. And so we talked about some hard things. We talked about silence and solitude. We talked about mourning and lament, just things that you don't typically think of as, that's fun, you know. And even the one message Friday night, I talked about the fact that salvation isn't the goal. And I don't think a lot of people had even heard that. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is discipleship, and salvation is just the beginning step in discipleship. And so God had me preach real hard on that, and And Andy, Pastor Andy, I love him to death. And he's just like, man, you hit it right on the head. There's a lot of people here that need to hear that. And so I just felt like that was kind of the theme of the camp. The theme was fearless, but to be fearless, you have to be a disciple. Like, to me, to be fearless, you don't have to be saved to be fearless.
True.
Like, because salvation is free. And I said this when I preached that night. Jesus has already done that. Like, and his will is that not one perish. And he saved the whole world. It said that God so loved the world that he gave his only son. And so the entire world is saved. Like, that doesn't mean they're going to heaven, but they're saved. Like, the salvation is there. They can get it if they want it. They just have to make that step of faith. This is, I believe Jesus is who he says he is, that he died for us. I believe those creedal things. I believe that. And salvation is yours. It's free. So you don't have to be fearless to be saved. Really, you got to be scared. Like, I'm scared of hell and be saved. And typically that's what happens. We're not scared. And I said this in my message. We're not scared of Jesus. We're not scared of heaven. We're not scared to be saved. But we are scared of transformation. And so I think there's this thing where we need to really go deeper on those things as Christ followers. Not for those people who don't know Jesus. Those people just need to hear love and mercy and grace.
And hope.
Yeah, and hope, for sure. But those of us who already have it, like, we should be going deeper. And I think we're scared. We're afraid to go into those deep places, those deep waters where we're not in control.
It's the fear of the unknown.
That's right.
Like, God's going to take you places that you don't know what that is, and that creates
Well,
fear.
even more than that, he's going to look at the deepest, darkest parts of your heart.
Right. The basement.
And no one wants to look at the deepest, darkest parts of their heart. And so
You don't know what he's going to transform you into.
Right.
well, yeah,
Right.
What are you going to have
for
to
sure.
do? What are you going to have to? Who are you
Let
going to have to
go.
stop hanging out with? Who are you going to have to? What
For
are you going to have
sure.
to sacrifice?
That's right. That's
You
right.
start
And I think
raking
most people,
mud, and it
yeah,
starts digging up the flies and the
that's right.
smell.
That's right. And I think that's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of that one dark room that we don't want to give up. And we're afraid that there are some things we'll have to cut out of our lives. And so we went really deep into a lot of
That is
those
really
waters this week.
It was good.
And I think God honored it. I've already had some messages. People send me text messages and things on social media just saying that God is honoring those things. And this is, man, I love this. Like, this is the best story I've heard about camp so far. The best story I've heard about camp. Pastor Kelly Womack told me today that yesterday they were sitting at home and Ryan's like, well, I'm going to go out for a little bit. And Kelly was like, where are you going? You don't drive? How are you going out for a little bit? And he told her, he said, well, I need to go and practice my solitude and silence.
Amen.
And if anyone knows Ryan, like, that's a big
hard,
deal.
yeah.
Like, it's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on that
He's
same
a
road.
people person.
Yeah. And I just think that's where we're at. Like, we should be doing those things. And we're going to talk about that today too, silence and solitude. Before we get into that, I wanted to transition into our sigh moments of the week.
Oh man, Evan's really he is raring to go.
I
And
know.
these are those moments that when you see them and you hear about them, and you just gotta sigh, like, what in the world? How do we get to this place? Where's the world headed? There's got to be a better way. And so this week, and it's not, there's never a shortage of these.
No.
We could spend an entire show just on sigh moments.
Well, because there's
But-
some every day.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so leading us off in our sigh moments of the week is my boy, Evan Amon.
I just can't take it anymore, guys. I just can't.
What is
I'm
it?
done with
Sigh moment of the
the
week.
internet.
Internet wins.
You're so
Internet
not
So
Yeah.
you
Internet
guys
broke
know
Evan.
about IHop, right?
I like IHop.
The
I
International
serve
House of
pancakes.
Pancakes.
Yes. Okay.
I
So
like
about
pancakes
about a week ago,
and cornmeal muffins in my
they
mouth.
announced they were changing their name to IHop. IHOB. They had the entire internet questioning for like 3-4 days. What does this mean? And as a sane person, I just assumed International House of Breakfast. They're
Yep.
pulling a KFC.
That's what everybody
That would have been
said.
good.
KFC changed their name from Kentucky Fried Chicken to just KFC. That's
Because
what
they
it is
didn't
on
want to
papers.
sell just chicken.
Or just Kentucky Fried Chicken. They're just KFC now.
Right.
And so
There was a
Any
rumor going around
sane
for a while that they
person-
changed it because they don't really serve chicken.
oh, oh,
It's so genetically modified that it's not even real chicken.
wow.
It's not chicken, it's chicken.
And they came out that it's International House of Burgers.
That doesn't even make any sense.
It made me legitimately angry. I'm like, they're joking. Like,
So-
this is funny. But no, their Twitter literally got changed. They're changing the signs. They're changing
No,
everything.
they're not changing all the signs.
Not all of them.
Just the one.
Just the
changing
main,
some of 'em.
just the main
So,
one in
really?
California.
Does this
Yeah, I
mean
read
that-
It's
that.
actually
Oh.
just a marketing ploy.
They're,
Still.
hey, you're
They're
talking
not-
about it, right?
Yeah.
They're not
It's like
changing their
Kanye.
name.
They're not
It was a
changing all of it.
marketing
This is
ploy.
Are you
exactly
sure?
like-
Yeah.
They have not came out with anything saying.
They did. I have it. I have the
Oh, they
article.
did.
Yeah.
Evan,
Oh.
this is exactly like Kanye.
Oh.
Their CEO did
I for real thought
their
this
CEO
was
did an interview
True for
on
a second.
with
It made me
Forbes.
so angry.
Their CEO did an interview with Forbes, and they changed the sign of their flagship store in Los Angeles.
Yes.
It was all a marketing ploy to get the word out that they are selling burgers.
I mean, they
They've
sold
always
burgers.
Bad
sold
part
burgers.
is they've sold burgers before, and they
Their
were
new line of
awful.
burgers.
They were garbage. They were hot garbage. And Dwayne even said that he went to Dwayne Cresswell, our worship leader. We were just talking about this today, and he said that he went to an IHop, a few years back when they were serving burgers, and he said they were garbage. He said it was so bad. He said it was almost like it was basically just a fast food burger. You couldn't even ask them like medium well or medium or
Yeah.
medium rare. They just brought you out a frozen patty on a terrible bun, and that was your burger.
That's nasty.
Yeah, but that's what you get when you go to the House of Pancakes.
But I
and
think
get a
now
burger.
they're trying to do more designer burgers, kind of almost on
Yeah.
the line
Well,
with like Red Robin.
I thought
I
they
will
were gonna
only-
do like really good designer burgers, but it's like mushroom and Swiss.
Well, then
I
they
will
said they're
only-
going to have a royal, like a breakfast royale. It's going to have like bacon, eggs, and cheese
I like eggs
on
on
it
my burger.
with
But
the burger. Me
still
too.
wrong.
I love it.
With
Still
that
wrong.
one, I will only accept this if they make a good burger with pancakes as the buns.
Well, he said they asked him about that on the interview,
McDonald's?
and he said
McGriddle, yeah.
his reply to that was, "You can order a burger and pancakes and make your own pancake
No, I
burger."
want them to make it for me
They're-
because I'm
You're
lazy.
not going to get that.
Doesn't
No,
work like that.
I don't
I
know.
will tell you-
Man,
Serve me.
Two things. At first, I was like you. I was so angry. I was like, "This is the stupidest, lamest thing I've ever seen." But then
it
The
worked.
glory of the
I had to
internet.
remember that in today's world,
Everything.
all press is good press.
Yep.
That's right. Kanye.
In the day of the hashtag and the Twitter and social media, all press is good press. We talked about
Yeah.
this on our wrestling podcast not too long ago, where even in like we're big wrestling freaks, so we're like we love it. We followed it since I was a child.
Drop kick.
Doubledropkickshow.com.
That's really hard to say.
You can go and watch
Hey,
our
man,
listen
you
to
can't be doing that to
listen
us.
to my boys Heath and Mark on their podcast. It's a totally different podcast.
We better
But they
get-
talked
be
about
getting
this, and we
marketing
talked about
dollars.
online, where in today's world, all press is good press. In the wrestling, like WWE has gotten that to a T now. They don't care. They don't care if their matches are good, their matches are bad. They don't care if there's a storyline. All they want you to do is talk about their product. And they don't care how you talk about it. Just talk about it. Because then they can go to places like Fox, which just gave them $200 million to do their show for the next 5 years. Because then they can go to places like Fox and go, look at all of these people who talk about our product. There's 100 million people talking about our product this week. They don't tell them that they're talking about your product because it sucks. They just tell them they're talking about your product. So in today's world, any press is good press in the social media world. It's like Wendy's. Wendy's is genius with their
Yes.
Twitter, and it's not, it has nothing to do with their food.
They've got somebody.
They
that's
don't
really
talk
witty
about
on
their
that.
food. They don't talk about how good their food
got a
is.
whole
All they do is
team.
roast everybody else. Like
That team better be making bank.
that whole squad. And
They've
I've
got
never
so-
I've never seen another
The
funnier.
fast food world.
I've
is
never seen a
clapping
more
back at
funny
them.
interview in my life than when I saw the very whitest CEO in America the guy who's the CEO of Wendy's try to talk to people about how they put out a rap diss mixtape.
Oh, wow.
And he just talked about how their social media team came up with that. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. This ultra white 70-year-old CEO talking about
So
a
great.
hip hop diss tape. Wendy's has got it down. We saw these tweets that go along with your side moment, and you've seen them. You talked about them. Burger King changed their name of their Twitter to Pancake King. Just the official tweets of Pancake King USA. Wendy's, the first tweet they sent out was, remember when you were like 7 and you thought changing your name to Thunder Bear Sword was a super cool? It's like that, but our cheeseburgers are still better. And then somebody named at Solo U City, tweeted Wendy's. So at Wendy's, you just gonna let at IHop sell burgers on your block? Thought you were OG. Wendy's tweeted him back and said, we're not really afraid of burgers from a place that decided pancakes were too hard.
Roasted.
This whole thing.
It's
That
so
was the
good.
only good thing that came out of this whole thing.
A&W changed their logo and just flipped it upside down, and they said, we're inspired by the International House of Burgers announcement. We also changed our name to this, and it was their logo like upside down, and they said, don't ask us what it stands for. We don't even understand what it stands for.
That's great. My favorite was Whataburger.
Yeah, they said, we're not going to change our name to What a Pancake. Denny's, I like this one. Denny's tweeted out like a conversation, says, Grandpa, do you remember the Great Burger Wars?
Wow.
And it said, LOL, no, I was chilling, drinking milkshakes and trying to make sense of Westworld. Waffle House roasted them too. Waffle House said,
Yep.
even though we serve delicious burgers, we know our roots.
I love it.
But
I love my Waffle House.
breakfast-wise, IHop or whatever it is right now is still number one in the industry, in the breakfast industry. Sales-wise.
Oh, okay, you're giving that full
And
statistics.
like how much they're like control the industry.
Oh, the
They're
breakfast industry, they're
like
way ahead, yeah.
Double Waffle
They're way
House.
ahead,
They're
yeah, yeah.
double.
I thought you were just
anybody
giving an
else.
opinion.
Yeah, IHop
they-
is still
they
in
are
in
Which is
control.
crazy
Yeah.
to think of because there's a Waffle House almost on every
In the
corner
South.
in the South, especially.
No, just in the
And-
in America, I think like they
Big
cannot
cities,
build
they don't
any
have
more
it.
stores.
Well,
Like they've met their quota. Like there's a quota for how many like stores per like square mile or something you can have, and like Waffle House can literally not build any more.
I don't know if that's true.
That's-
I don't know. I heard it a long time ago, but
Right.
it sounds
I've seen
correct.
new stores. They just
Because in the north, we don't have any
Panama
Waffle
City
Houses.
Beach.
Okay, maybe that's just for like the South or
And
something.
they don't have
Yeah.
them in big cities either. You
Yeah,
Look,
we don't
yeah.
have
because
many
big
Waffle
cities
Houses.
are crowded already.
But
Yeah.
they have them in. They have
Yeah,
IHOP.
because
in big cities.
to buy land in big cities, you got to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
We were just in Panama City Beach, and there are literally 3 Waffle Houses
On the same
within
block.
a mile
Yeah. They're on
of
the
each
same
other.
block.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And they were all
And we ate at
full.
one. I'm not gonna lie. And
I
got
think
a
it was the
waffle.
training center because
I
there were
love
like 50
waffles.
people working in there.
Oh my gosh.
And like 100 people trying to
Yes,
eat.
that
It
Panama
was-
City Waffle House.
It was crazy.
There was probably, no exaggeration,
20.
60 people there to eat.
Yeah.
They could only sit like 40 because there was only that many tables. Really small. 20 people lined up to wait.
They had us in like a little.
I've never
Like a
had
Disney
that in a
World
while.
And I
line.
think they were training people
Whoa.
because there was literally like 25 to 30 people that
Working.
worked there.
Whoa.
It was crazy. You couldn't even walk around in there. I never been like that. But
Anyway.
what about you, Noah? Side moment.
All right, mine's a little bit more serious than Evan's. My side moment
That was
comes
serious, man.
from the mixed martial arts world.
They're my feelings.
For those who know me, they know I love mixed martial
I'm
arts
serious about my
and the
pancakes,
UFC
too.
and all that. And there was an interim title fight for the UFC this past Saturday, and it was against this very well-rounded Brazilian guy named Rafael dos Anjos, and then this American guy named Colby Covington. And Colby is trying to be like Conor McGregor in like the Notorious fashion, but is like 1,000 times worse at it, and is just a bully, and really honestly seems like kind of a thug. And before the fight a while back, he had been
Diaz brothers, anyone?
who recently just got arrested actually.
Oh, that's not new.
But
They've been arrested 100 times.
But he, after a fight previously in Brazil, said on like during his post-fight interview, he was like, He said this a little bit more harshly, but basically said, like, I hate all you Brazilians, you're all filthy animals, and then just, like, left. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, what are you saying? And my sigh moment is that when he fought this guy, he won. And so now he's the interim champion and is still,
Dang.
yeah. But my sigh
You like
moment,
to see the bully get beat up.
yeah.
That's what I like.
Well, I'm hoping the champ, Tyron Woodley, can
He will.
put him in his place.
Time's legit.
But my real sign moment from all of this is just, that's just not a good way to present yourself. I mean, it is just, and it is just awful. Like, and you see his Twitter and like his Instagram, and it's just awful. And it makes me sad because like a lot of people already have that like connotation about mixed martial arts that they're all like that. But really, it's just like the small little group that thinks they're better than everybody else and want to just be popular.
That's right.
And it's just.
I said this the last time. I'll say it again. I think that's the way UFC's trending now.
Yeah.
Because now that they are.
But I hate that.
Now that they are sold, the Fajita brothers.
Yeah.
I always mess up their name. I don't remember what their name was. But
Fertitta
whatever,
brothers.
yeah, something like that. When the fajita guys sold it, they weren't even. They were like Russian or something. They're not even.
Oh,
or
I thought
German
they were
or something.
Hispanic.
They're not even
That's what you're
Hispanic.
saying.
And so that wasn't even close to being racist. I just don't know their
Yeah,
names.
it's a weird
And
name.
it is a weird name. And
Have you
when
ever
they
had a
sold
Russian
it,
fajita?
literally, the UFC trended downward, in my opinion, because now, and I said this before, it is becoming more like WWE,
Yeah.
but real fights.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is what we just talked about.
Because
With
any press is
IHop.
good press.
all press is good press today.
And controversy sells.
Yes, because now the Woodley and this guy fight is going to be huge
Yeah.
because everyone's going to want to see the bully get his butt kicked.
Yes. Hopefully he will.
And so when they do that, man, I guess I'm a little jaded too right now. Like I'm so like on edge when it comes to anything I see on television
Yeah.
or the media, that it's all manufactured and produced, and it all has an agenda to sell tickets, and it's all about making that dollar. And so I've just become jaded. So that's what, and it's the reason why I love wrestling.
Yeah.
Because they make no qualms about it. They let you know we are fake.
Yeah.
We're doing this to sell tickets.
Yeah.
But yet they do it and they sell tickets. But then we get things like UFC and boxing and what's supposed to be the news, and ESPN's the worst at it now.
Yeah.
They will drum up controversy just so they can
Sell
talk
tickets.
about controversy so they can sell ad programming. And so I just get so fed up with that, man.
Same.
And I
hate-
used to be a UFC fan too.
I'm still a big UFC fan, but I hate it because mixed martial arts originally was all about
It was
honor
pure.
and respect
It was
and
pure.
integrity.
It was.
And then you got guys like this coming in just
That's right.
putting in a bad name. That's my
That's right.
side moment, is
Yeah.
bringing a
I
bad
agree
name
with
to
you.
something that's supposed to be,
Pure.
honorable and respectful.
I 100% agree. So Chris, what do you got? Side moment.
My sigh moment is this stupid rain. So
Me too. I'm so tired of it.
Still working on my arc. I'm sorry. I'm
So-
trying. I'm going as fast as I can. I was at camp for a week.
the whole reason Mike and I like to camp. I don't know if you guys know that, but we like to camp and we like to hike, and so we end up deciding to go hiking on Sunday because we didn't have to be here for any practices or meetings or anything. So we get out to FDR and, we're like, hey, maybe we should just get a campsite for a couple nights. That would be fun because it's supposed to rain on Father's Day weekend because I had asked if you wanted to camp. So we're like, that's a great idea. So we went home and got all of our stuff. And the first night was wonderful. It was great.
Oh.
Last
Anyone check the weather?
last
Yeah,
night.
we checked the weather.
We
It came
did.
in fast.
We did. Last night, we actually, Tim, Alex, and I brought Brady, so our whole family. We ate dinner. It was beautiful. We went on a hike, and then it got darker and darker. And then
Well,
we
it was
started hearing,
8:30, but
we started hearing thunder, and it was getting closer and closer. And don't you know, we get back to our campsite, and we could literally see the rain
Oh, no.
coming across the pond, and we all scattered and just ran into the tent. And Tim
Tim stayed in his hammock.
Tim jumped
Tim stayed in his hammock with the rain fly.
Oh, my
jumped into
God.
his hammock.
What a boss.
He
I'm
is-
not kidding
he's
you.
a soldier.
It was so
It rained so
terrible.
hard.
And it lightning.
And it was lightning all around
so
us, like hitting
loud.
trees. It was crazy.
It was scary.
Yeah.
Like Alex
It was
screamed
crazy.
a couple times because it was like, it was so close. It was right on top of us.
Yeah.
And finally, we look out into our tent, out in the
The
screen
water's
part of our
coming up.
tent. The water had come all the way in, and it was like this far
Yeah.
up. Like our floor was floating.
There was like an inch
On
of water
water
in our like
underneath
little
us, yeah.
atrium
Oh my
area.
God.
You
We
were
have a,
dry.
we have
Yeah.
a really cool
But-
tent. It's got like a little atrium area that's closed in with just
Y'all don't have a tent. You have a small house.
we have a small house that
You
we,
guys
that we
all
tent
fixed the
in.
little tear thing.
Yeah, we
Okay.
had no leaks
No
in the
leak.
actual tent.
That's
But
good.
but the outside where the little atrium part is was flooded, like at least an inch of water. And then it got underneath the tent, and it was like
Wow.
floating basically.
Like I
we were on a
touched it, and
houseboat
we're
at this
like,
point.
"Ooh."
It's like we were on a
waterbed.
waterbed. Yeah, we were on a 1987 waterbed.
Like finally, Mike just had to make an executive
And I was like, we're
decision.
going home.
And he's like, I don't care how wet we get, but everybody grab as much as you can. Get in the cars. We're going home. And we did.
Yeah.
We were
We
so
packed everything except for the air beds in the tent.
So he went out
everything
today. He had
else
to go out
we
today. But
packed.
still, okay. So not only is the rain my son moment, it also is attached to the fact it's the third time this season, since it got warm, that we have been out to camp and we've had to pack up like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Well, it's the second time we've had to rebook something for the
Yeah.
youth.
Oh, man,
Yes.
Because the rain is killing us.
Yes,
We couldn't do
tubing.
Color Wars a couple months ago because of the rain, and now we can't go tubing tomorrow night.
Again.
We
Yeah.
can't,
of
we
the
can't
rain.
go tubing tomorrow
There's-
Water's
because
too
of the
high
rain.
and going too
Yep.
fast for us to take a big group.
Yeah.
Too, too dangerous.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
even-
other than that,
even
also they're supposed to, it's 87% thunderstorms.
Oh yeah. No,
Tomorrow
thank you.
at the tubing place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we had to make that executive decision. And part of that too was we chartered a bus. And if we would have drove all the way up there and this charter bus had not been able to tube, it would have cost us the cost of the charter bus was a couple $1,000s. But if we can postpone it and go a different day, the charter bus told us then we can reschedule and we don't lose any money. So that was part of the factor also. So kind of stinks. But it is what it is. The rain is what it is. I wish it would just go away for a while.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Because
me
our,
too.
our
Again,
garden is
another
ready.
day.
I've seen
It's
enough
floating.
of it.
It's floating.
Georgia, we get it. You can rain.
Although last summer we didn't have any, so.
I'd rather have that myself.
The rain needs to change its name.
That's right. To
Just-
International House of You
Burgers.
Stink Cakes.
It needs to change to dry and just release
Right.
a new
Amen.
That's
a
called
new
drought.
line of burgers. I mean, dryness.
All right, my
You're saying.
my side moment of the week, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. My email is Mike
Uh-oh.
at ccclive.org, and
Getting
if
the
you want to
emails
send
ready.
them to me, send
your
them
paper
send
out.
them to me. I'll say it again, Mike at ccclive.org. This is my own opinion. This is not the opinion of anyone I work for or represent, or anyone you may know that knows me. This is my opinion.
You're making me nervous.
So scared.
This week, I saw a video where I believe it was in Texas. I may have to look it up just to make sure I know what I'm doing. But it was like the Class 2A track and field championships in Texas. And for the 100-yard dash or 100-meter dash and the 200-meter dash, in the girl category, they allowed 2 boys who identify
Yeah, I did see that.
as transgender to race against the girls in this track meet,
And they smoked.
and they smoked them. The 2 boys went first and second in the 100, and the other boy went first in the 200. I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the boys identifying themselves as transgender, although I think it's a mental health issue. Because we talked about this before in the show. I don't think you get to choose what gender you are. You can't change it. You can get the surgery all you want. Your DNA still comes up, says you're male or female. I understand that they struggle with acceptance. I understand that it is a topic that is one of those where students are trying to find themselves, and there is a high rate of depression and a decently high rate of suicide amongst students who struggle with gender identity. I get all of that, and my heart breaks for them. And I love them. I will accept them for who they are. There's no way boys should be competing with girls in sports. And I know some girls that would smoke me in a track meet.
Uh-oh.
I know some girls that would smoke me on the basketball court.
Uh-oh.
But we are made differently.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the upper level, there's still not a girl on the planet who can compete with a boy at the upper level. The men's 100-meter dash world record is like 9.4, 9.5, something like that. The women's 100-meter dash record is like 11.1. That's a full 2 seconds. That is an eternity in track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything time.
In
2
the
seconds is a long
100-meter
time.
dash, that is an eternity. There's no way in the world that boys should be able to compete with girls. I don't care what gender they claim to identify with. I have a problem with this. I'm not going to make it a big political thing. It made me angry to know that if my daughter was a track athlete, and she may end up being a track athlete, I don't know. She's pretty fast. She's very athletic. I wish she'd do the pole vault, actually. I think she would kill it. I know that's a side note. Hashtag side note. But it pains me to know that these girls that worked 4 years of their lives in high school to get to where they are got beat by 2 boys.
Right.
And them girls that got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, even the girl that got 9th and 10th that wasn't allowed to compete in the finals because these 2 boys took their spot. I got a problem with that. So even if as a society we are going to embrace the transgender movement and say they get their own category, they can be their own people, then one or two things has to happen. Either we make them compete in the gender they were born in, because sports is a different thing than social. Sports is a different thing than social justice. Sports is a different thing than it's one of those things that's supposed to expand, it's supposed to cross boundaries of civil rights and all of this stuff. That's why black people and white people and brown people and yellow people and orange people should all be able to compete together in the same sport.
Yeah.
But when it comes to gender equality, they should compete in their own gender. Or we have to create a third category and say transgenders can only compete against transgenders. That's the bottom line. That has to happen. Because you cannot have these boys competing with girls on any level. What's going to happen next? They're going to let one of them boys get in a ring with one of these girls in a boxing match? In a UFC match? Then where does it stop? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have these money-hungry parents who know there's scholarships involved, who are going to make their kids then be transgender so they can compete at a level and smash somebody because they couldn't compete with their own gender.
Right.
And then what are you going to do? There's got to be some sort of line here that we don't cross.
It's kind of like that story, because wasn't there a man, or at least I've seen this in a movie, but I feel like this was based off of a true story, that like faked being mentally challenged and like went to the Olympics for it. Yeah.
That's happened before. He went to Special Olympics and won a bunch of medals and had to give him back because he wasn't. And actually, the Benchwarmers movie's loosely based off of it. It's not. It's that story, but it's told in like a comedic setting.
That was a funny movie.
It was a funny movie, by the way.
I just remember, I haven't seen it in forever, but I remember you being on the floor laughing.
Oh, it was funny. I like
We have
Johnny
to watch
Knoxville.
it.
I think he's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I think there's got to be a line that we draw here. And I'm going to draw the line in the sand where any kind of person who was born one gender, I don't care what they do in their personal life. Go ahead. If you feel like you identify as a boy or a girl, that's not my decision for you to make for you. Now, I can pray for you. I can love you. I can counsel you. I can give you all the grace and love and mercy and tell you the way you were created was on purpose and for a purpose, and that God loves you, and that he created you that way for a reason, and there's a reason why you feel like you can't be a boy or a girl anymore. But I draw the line when we say boys can compete with girls and girls have to compete with boys on the level. Here's my thing. You don't ever see a girl transgender saying, I want to compete with boys. We've yet to see that.
I actually have.
Yeah, you do.
When?
I've seen, there's a story a while back. It's similar in the sense that there's this girl who identified as a male, and she started taking testosterone in order to make herself more manly, like a lot of testosterone stuff. She was told she could not compete with the boys.
Because her testosterone levels are too high.
So just because she was a female, she was told that she could not compete with the boys, but she identified as a boy. So she had to compete with her original gender, the women,
With the girls.
and she smoked all of them
God, well,
in a wrestling tournament because
Of
she was
course,
taking
but
Basically,
you know-
she basically just
Yeah,
took
she was steroids.
steroids.
But the next
Yeah.
level, you know, at the
It's-
next level, she won't be able to compete
She won't be
because
able to
they
compete.
test for that.
Yeah.
And if your testosterone
This
levels
was-
are heightened, you can't compete.
This was a
So
lower
that's
level,
never
though,
going
so-
to happen.
Yeah.
Like at the next level, she would never be allowed to compete. And without the testosterone, she would never be able to compete with the boys.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes boys. We're not better. We're equal, but different.
You're
That's
just
what
different.
makes
You're
boys-
built differently.
Yeah.
On an equal playing field, you take two people, a boy and a girl, that are similar. The boy is going to be stronger. He's going to be faster. He's going to do things that a girl cannot do. Now, if you take a girl who's a weightlifter, obviously she's going to be stronger than I am.
Yeah.
But if you take a boy who's a weightlifter, he's going to be able to lift more than her.
You take the
It's genetic. It's the way we were created. Like that's just the way it works. So I have to draw the line here and say this is not acceptable. And as a society, we have to go, this is not acceptable. And I know they did talk about it a little bit in the article I read and the videos that I watched that the coaches were kind of upset about it, but they're like, in the rules, in the Title IX rules, this is the way it was written, so there's really nothing we can do, but we need to go back and reevaluate these rules. Because they do. Because
That
eventually
still
it's going
stinks
to...
for those girls.
Yeah.
though.
It does. It stinks for girls because you're never going to... You can say that, like you've heard of a girl wanting to compete with boys, but you've never heard of a girl who beats the boys. Like, that's just not what happens.
Yeah.
But you're always going to hear about these boys who go downward because they can't compete with the other boys, and they'll beat the girls. And that's just not fair. It's not. And I'm not hating on girls. I'm actually taking up for the girls. I think they should be given the opportunity to be the best girl they can be and not have to compete against boys. I
Because
just
we
think
already
that's
do that
crazy.
and everything else.
Right, you already have
Yeah,
to do that and everything
we
else
do.
because society stinks and they won't let you be on an equal playing field.
No. I mean, in the business world,
Right.
And I mean, I'm in the medical field. In the medical field, it's hard.
That's right. We had this
It's so
discussion the other
hard.
day. Like when I say I went to go see my doctor, what do you think of?
Don't ask me that question.
You think of a man, though.
I work for a woman.
Automatically,
My
you
doctor's
think of
a
a
woman.
man. But if somebody's telling a story, your brain automatically goes to a man because it's
Yes.
still one of those professions that we see as male dominated.
Every day I get.
And so girls already have to play on an unequal
get
playing
that.
field. We start making them compete against boys in sports, even though this boy says that he identifies as transgender. I don't think that's fair. I think that's ridiculous. And it has nothing to do with the boy as a person. Nothing at all. Like I said, if he's transgender, we need to love him in that. We need to counsel him in that. We need to show him grace. Let him know that God created him on purpose and for a purpose. All of that stuff. He's created in the image of God. As a boy, that's what we need to do. But as an athlete, he can't compete with the girls. Period. So that's mine. I know I went a little long and I was passionate, but
I was very passionate.
Hey, that's
I'm
what we're
pretty
here
passionate
for.
about that. And,
Hard conversations.
And if you're out there
Which
today,
is surprising to me because usually you're like, gung ho for,
women's
sen-
rights. Yeah, I
being
love women.
sensitive.
Yes, I'm very sensitive to
I
those
mean,
things. Like I would have
you want to include everyone.
I would
and
have
give everyone
no
a chance.
problem if a transgender student came to our youth
No.
ministry. Zero.
Right.
Zero. And
That's
they'd
what
be
I'm saying,
welcome.
like, that's-
They'd be able to be in our group. I have no problem with that. but I don't want them competing with the opposite gender. It's just not fair in sports. Sports is a different thing.
I actually agree with you. So that's good.
But and I was going to say, if you are transgender out there and you happen to listen to our show, just know that we love you and you are accepted and you could be a part of our group. I would love to have a conversation with you about identity and how God loves you, just the way you are, like the way you were created, the way you were born. And I would love to have that conversation with you. And just know that life is worth living, no matter what society tries to tell you.
Yeah.
So
especially right now.
I just tell you that, and we're gonna flip it up.
Yep.
Now, on to our hot topic.
Yeah.
Our hot topic this week is silence and solitude.
If you had picked it up by
My
now, you probably
favorite.
are a little bit lost. We've said it about 50.
That's right. We've already said it a couple times this show. And I'm gonna start this one by just saying I'm gonna let my man Noah read kind of something he wrote.
You're surprising me.
No, I'll let you pick it up.
I got it.
Okay. And Noah wrote this last week at camp. Last week at camp, one of the things we talked about, as we already said once, was silence and solitude. And my whole talk about this was, I believe that this is one of those things in our culture that if we could get back to this, back to silence and solitude, back to applying silence and solitude into the rhythms of our life, that there's an extra means of grace that comes from this kind of discipline. It's not a chore, it's not a duty, it's not something you have to do to be saved, but there is an extra means of grace that comes with our spiritual disciplines. And grace is something we don't deserve. And when we practice spiritual disciplines, we get this presence of God that we don't deserve. We get this special voice of God that we don't deserve. So silence and solitude to me is a means of grace. And then if we could get back to that, because this world is always noisy. Everyone's talking, so many voices. If we could get back to silence and solitude, because this used to be in the rhythm of the church. This used to be in the rhythm of Christendom. And it's just not anymore, unless you're a monk. Like, unless you're a nun or a monk, you don't practice silence and solitude. You might practice prayer. That's different. It's different than silence and solitude. And a lot of times, especially in 21st century North American Christianity, prayer is me talking to God. We've even heard people say that, like, prayer is easy. You just talk to God. Well, you're missing a whole aspect of prayer. Pastor Billy talked about this today in our staff meeting, that there is an inhale and an exhale. And the inhale is the prayer. The exhale is the silence. So you're inhaling by praying, you're exhaling when you're in silence. Or that's the opposite. You exhale when you pray because you're speaking to God. You're getting things out. But when you sin in silence and solitude, you're inhaling. And you can't breathe without both.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with silence and solitude and prayer. You can pray all you want. That's exhale, 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 exhale. I'm getting things out. But to inhale again, to breathe, to live, you got to practice silence and solitude.
Get rid of the CO2.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%. So, Noah, what'd you write? I want to hear this. This is good stuff.
So this came from that solitude and silence time that Pastor Mike had us partake in, and then was just finished a couple of days ago. So here it is. Solitude and silence. Sitting all alone, not a word to be spoken, longing to hear your voice so that the silence may be broken. In solitude I wait to hear the whisper of your spirit. Father, speak your life now. Speak your word so that I may hear it. Let your spirit come crashing down. Fill me with it now. I want to soar through the clouds, not be stuck to the ground. Your voice I want to hear to break this crippling fear. Father, break this doubt, whether by your whisper or shout. Father, come break this doubt. I listen for your word. You are the only thing I want to have heard. Speak life now. Take it all away. This fear in my heart, Father, take it all away. Speak life now. I am yours, created by your breath, created by your word. Speak life now. Your word I seek. Speak life now. Your will is all I want to see. I sit here deaf from the noise of life, the hustle and bustle, the spite and strife. All I want is to hear your voice, but the lies and doubt speak louder in the crowds. So I will seek your word away from the noise, like he did when he would leave the crowds. Though this life seems like it's overwhelming me, I will seek him among the wilderness and the streams. And in the solitude and silence, there is a voice that speaks. He brings his presence and his peace. He sings of his love for me. Oh, what a lovely melody.
That's good, man.
Wow.
That's real good. Thank you for sharing that, Noah. And Evan, you were able to be at camp this week, and when we talked about silence and solitude, what did you kind of take away from that time we spent in silence and solitude?
Yeah, silence and solitude has always just kind of been a way I've felt I best communicated with God. Something I've heard it before called soaking prayer in another time, just where you write out a prayer to God. I literally write it down, and I just sit there in silence and just listen, and then just try to write down what I feel like I heard or what thoughts seemed very relevant. And a lot of times that's the best way God communicated with me. And it's something I've struggled with recently to keep up doing, just because I got in this period of time where it's so easy to just say my prayer, send it off, and to just forget to sit there and listen. And you're just missing half of the communication there. And it was very, very fulfilling and very it was a breath of fresh air, basically, just to sit down and do that again. And it was cool just hearing God speak once again.
Chris, you ever give any thought to silence and solitude in your daily rhythms?
I give much thought to silence and solitude. Do I do it? No, I don't. I fill it with other things, and this has always been an issue for me, or something that I have struggled with in my walk, is actually staying still and listening. I don't know, I think that I was talking about this with someone on Sunday, actually, that I think it's something that we all feel guilty that we don't do it. Like, we know we have to do it, but by the time you get to a certain part of the day, or like the evening or the night, it's like the day just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and you've already missed out on your chance. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I know I have to do it, and I know I need to do it, and it would be so fulfilling to do it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I was gonna do that. It's like that, and so this subject here is something that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah,
it takes
to be more intentional.
Right,
and that's what I was about to say. Is it takes super intentionality.
No question, especially in today's world, because everything is loud.
Yeah,
and everything we do is loud.
I'm okay with sitting in silence.
Yeah, but you still have to be intentional to do it, especially in today's world. And this is what I told him this week. I think what you should do. This is kind of the discipline, the format of the discipline that I'm trying to institute. I did it this morning, and the last couple of weeks I've tried to institute this as God's been speaking to me. But in the morning, try it in the morning, or in the evening, just however you're wired. Like, first thing you do, last thing you do, something in between there. Or if you don't have time to do that, I know a lot of parents have some issues with that. Do it at lunch, do it at midday, whatever works. But here's my format. And what I did today actually was, I got up, and the first 10 minutes of my day I spent in silence and solitude, and just go out, sit on the back patio, and here's what I do. I write. I ask God. My very first thing is prayer. I just say, God, speak to me, for I'm listening. And then that's it. Like, I think sometimes we think we're being in silence and solitude when we're journaling, or when we're reading, or when we're sitting and listening to music. I don't think that's it. I think those are different things. Those are prayer. Those are journaling. Journaling, you're basically just vomiting words on a page, like all the things you're thinking, and you're journaling.
And that's how I pray.
And sometimes that's fine. Like, that's a great way to. That's a great way to pray.
Yeah,
it's a great way to pray. It's a great way to write down thoughts. Some of the best sermons I've ever written come out of my journaling, because I've just journaled these thoughts down, and they make sense later on. But what I do is I pray. I just say, God, I'm listening, speak to me. And then just for 10 minutes, I'll just sit in silence. No music, no anything, no phone is turned off, and I will breathe. Like, you will be shocked at how much you relax when you just breathe. And I will focus in on my heartbeat, because once you're in silence, you really can hear your own heartbeat. It's crazy. So I'll focus on my heartbeat, and for about 10 minutes, I'll just sit in silence. Sometimes it's 5 minutes because I have ADD and I go squirrel, but 5 to 10 minutes, I'll sit in silence. And at the end, I will write down 2 to 5 sentences of what I feel like God said. And if I don't feel like he said anything, guess what? I write down nothing. I literally write down the word nothing. Like, I didn't hear nothing today. But there have been times when I've done this where I write something down and it doesn't make any sense. I told them this example. I wrote one down last week. I just said, I saw a guy on a brown horse in the ocean. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I could have just been hallucinating that I had a bad mushroom or something. But I wrote it down because maybe one day, I don't know, maybe we'll be at the ocean someday and we'll see a guy on a brown horse and I'll lead him to Jesus. Or he'll lead me to Jesus. I don't know. But I wrote it down because that's what I felt like I saw and I heard. And sometimes it's different than that. Sometimes I get a specific word and I'll share that. I shared a specific word with Noah when we were at camp. Noah not in charge. Shared a specific word with Owen at camp that I got from my silence, just listening to God. And so I'll just do that, and that's it. And I'll only write down 2 to 5 sentences. I won't journal. I won't write anything big. That's it, and that's all I do. And I'll tell you, it's really refocused kind of my life in some of those areas. And I can tell when I don't do it. Like, I feel flustered a little bit. I feel a little bit more depressed, like I'm missing something. So I do that. I'm trying to make this more of a rhythm of mine. Yeah. What happens in life is we get into rhythms. We go to the same places. We see the same people. We do the same things every day. We eat the same breakfast. We eat lunch at the same time. We eat dinner at the same time. We go to bed most of the time at the same time. We watch the same movies, same TV shows. If we can learn to put these disciplines in our rhythms, they become a part of your life that you don't miss. But you have to get to the place where it's in your rhythm. And so you have to do it, 10, depending on who you talk to, 10 to 21 times before it's in your rhythm. But just start with 1, because every good streak starts with 1. Mm-hmm. Jordan won 6 rings. He had to win the first one first, right?
That's right.
But it's the truth. It just starts with 1. You have to get to 1 before you can get to 100. We say that in the bowling world. We say every 300 started with 1 strike.
That's right.
You can't roll 12 of them in a row until you get that first one. And so I just say get into your rhythm. Get into the rhythm of silence and solitude. Because here's what it does. I'll give you these 3 things before I read the scripture. First of all, if you want to hear a little bit more about silence and solitude, read 1 Kings. There's the story in there from Elijah after he battled the prophets of Baal, that he goes up into the cave and asks God to speak to him. And God's not found in the fire, the earthquake, or the strong wind. He's found in the still small voice or the whisper. And so, I don't know about you, but last time I heard a whisper, I had to be silent. And I had to lean into it. And so we sit in the silence and solitude. What we're doing is we're leaning into the whispers of God, into the Spirit of God. And so here's what sitting in silence does for you. 1, it makes you feel small. And when we feel small, we see how big God is. Because right now, when we're daily life, when everything is loud, we are the center of everything. That's why we think we have a voice on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. We have this voice. We can spew our meme and our own truth. But when we sit in silence and solitude, we feel small because the world around you is humongous. Yeah. And when we feel small, it helps us to realize that God is so much bigger than us. And I don't know about you, I want a big God handling my problems. And so not only do you feel small, but it makes you face your real self. I've heard it said that nobody is more real than when they lay their head on their pillow at night. Yeah. It's because you're alone. Mm-hmm. You feel alone. You face those things that only you can do. And when you sit in silence and solitude, you face yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's not until you can face your true self that you realize that you were made in the image of God. And so you face yourself, and then lastly, it's not natural for us to sit in silence. And because it's not natural, for us to survive, there has to be this moment where the sacred and the secular blur. And when we experience things like creation and beauty and the still small voice of God and the presence of God, when we do those things, that's where the sacred and the secular blur. And that is where the presence of God is. Because it's not as separate as we make it out to be. It's not sacred and secular. It's not as separate as we think it is. But when we blur those two things, the sacred and secular, that's where God's presence is. And so when we sit in silence and solitude, we get this glimpse of the blurring of the sacred and the secular. Because we shut off the secular, and we tune into the sacred, and they kind of blur for a moment. And so I just encourage us all to spend time this week in some silence and solitude and allow God to speak to you. I have a scripture I want to read, and Pastor Billy read this one to us this week, today actually in staff meeting. And it's Psalm 34. And this is crazy. It says this is actually the psalm that David wrote when he was going crazy, and before Abimelech, and he was kind of drove away. And so here's what he wrote after he felt like he was going crazy, and that he was driven away. It says, "I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look at him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and delivers them. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in the Lord. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints. And for those who fear him have no lack. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack nothing good. Come, O children, listen to me. I will teach you to fear the fear of the Lord. What man is there who desires life and loves many days, that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and his ears toward their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Many of the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He keeps all of his bones, not one of them is broken. Affliction will slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the life of his servants. None of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. That word refuge that's used in that whole psalm has a lot to do with solitude. Solitude. Strength. And so I hope that this week you will spend time in silence and solitude with the Lord and allow him to speak to you. Stop talking and listen. So I want us to end tonight with our final thought. And who has the final thought? Noah, what do you got?
So this final thought came up at camp, and I was having a conversation with one of our leaders, and I just thought, man, that is a good final thought. I have to use that.
Shout out to Mr. John White.
Yeah, shout
John
out
White.
to John White.
Let me say this. John White was gold
Yes,
at camp.
he was the man last week.
My
He is
favorite.
awesome.
So good, dude. So good. I'm so glad that he went.
Yeah, he was legit.
And shout out to Bob Timberlake for
Yeah.
driving. That man got up at
both
5 o'clock
legit.
every day and went to work.
That
Mr.
They are
Bob.
troopers.
Yeah, troopers. If it wasn't for them, that we couldn't have
Yeah,
gone.
Mr.
Miss
Bob had
Marie.
not driven.
Miss
And
Marie for
too,
going
yeah.
working in the
Oh, yeah.
kitchen. So
Cooking for
dope.
us.
She loved
Noah.
it.
Yeah.
She was like,
Yeah.
I'm going next year.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think they all loved it.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob's legit,
I would
right?
just be standing around.
Bob's a legend.
Out of nowhere, he comes up out of the shadows.
He just
says
materializes,
something. He's
right?
like, whoa.
Without him, we couldn't have gone.
No,
Yeah,
we
he's
couldn't
such a
even have
cool
made it.
guy.
He had to drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
he was
legit.
just down. Like he'd say something really funny, then disappear back.
Yeah.
It's like, where'd this man go?
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
All
No,
right,
go ahead.
so the final thought is, what is one, not the, but one of your most favorite movie scenes and why? So, who has one? Do you need to think of one, Evan? Do you have one?
I'm only gonna say this one because it's the only movie scene to make me cry in the past like 5 years.
I know what this is, and I'm so happy.
And I'm slightly disappointed in myself,
No,
yet so
do not-
proud of
do
myself
not
at
be,
the same
sorry.
time. I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and with my lady friend Anna, and Kelsey, and she knows I don't cry too often, at least not in front of people. Whenever I get in my room, I just cry myself to sleep. But
Every
that
day.
was a joke. But we were watching this movie, and near the end of the movie, it's a several-year-old movie, and I'm gonna spoil it anyways. Sorry,
You're
sorry. Groot, the tree man, if you guys don't know, he sacrifices himself and like encompasses the group as they're falling, and the raccoon dude with a jetpack just walks up and says, "What are you doing, Groot? Why are you doing this?" And he says, "We are Groot." And I just bust into tears. Like, I don't know what it is. I was laughing and crying at the same time. It hit me so hard in the feels,
Yeah.
man.
You know, I think
Too much.
I think that things that speak to us in movies, one big thing is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I think that's
That's
because
right.
that's written on our hearts. Like,
That's right.
sacrifice is a huge part of Christianity. I think that's why
That's right.
humans identify with it so much, is that's because that is in us and we identify
100%
with
true.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should be ashamed of that. I
No.
think
Mr.
you should
Stark.
embrace that.
Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
Oh no.
Hashtag too soon.
No, no.
What?
It's
Still
not too
always too soon.
What
No.
movie was that?
You know.
Seriously?
Who are you talking
He knows.
about?
I don't know.
He's joking.
I don't know.
He's
What-
serious.
What?
What? Wait.
So Kristen.
What? Wait. What?
I can tell you my favorite movie scene, but I'm not sure why it's my favorite. So my all-time favorite movie is...
Because it hit you right in the soul.
No, it's just... okay. My favorite movie of all time is A Few Good Men.
Okay.
Tom Cruise movie.
You can't handle the truth.
That's the one. That's my favorite
Is this an
scene.
old person movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It is not...
I'll disappear. into
I
the
am so
shadows for a second.
You ever see that meme of
Yeah, the
Homer
meme
Simpson?
of Homer Simpson disappearing into the bushes.
That's
Disappears into the
exactly
bushes.
what I thought whenever I was thinking of Bob.
It's,
That's right. He goes
It's-
into the bushes, comes back out.
look, it is like just so powerful because he just it's like he leads up to it and leads up to it, and he's just so nervous because
Yeah.
he's a higher ranking Marine.
It's the moment of truth.
and that's it right there. It's the pinnacle of the whole movie.
Yep.
And you can't handle the truth, and he's just like, I deserve the truth, you know.
You
And
want me on that wall.
need
You
me
need
on that
me on that wall.
yes,
I'm gonna have
thank
to watch
you,
this
honey.
movie now.
That whole
Yes,
quote is legit.
yes.
Like, that whole thing is... I'm not a big fan of that movie. I mean, it's okay,
I love it.
but she watches it all the
No,
time.
I haven't watched it in quite a long
But that
time.
whole scene she's
actually.
talking about is one of the best movie scenes of all time.
I think that's probably one of Tom Cruise's best works.
Oh, for
I believe.
sure.
Like I like some of his
Second,
like, of course, all of his
maybe to
older
Top
movies.
Gun.
This is before he,
Mm-hmm.
went off the rails, but yeah, totally. His
I still
best.
dig his Mission Impossible stuff. I can't get away from it.
I know.
I don't watch
New one
anything else
coming
he's
out?
in but Mission Impossible.
Jack
Well,
Reacher.
yeah, the new one's coming out.
He looks
Ghost,
old.
Ghost something.
Well, he
He
is
is
old.
old. He's like 60.
He looks like
And he's still doing his own stunts.
Yeah, he's like
Dude.
60.
But there's a shot.
That
This is
is-
off topic, but there's a shot where
Oh.
that
I
they're
don't think
using
he's
in the
quite
movie
60,
where he
but-
like literally like shatters his ankle jumping from a building to another building, and they use the
Oh,
shot in the
wow.
movie.
Yeah.
It's you can see it. It's nasty.
He breaks bones a lot.
But anyway, Mike, you got one? I'll do mine last.
I do, man. It's from my all-time favorite movie.
I know.
And it's my all-time favorite scene in my all-time favorite movie.
I know.
It is what do you think it is?
I think it's Tombstone.
Yeah, but which one?
Oh,
Tom
is
Cruise.
this, is this I'm Your Huckleberry?
Tom Cruise is
No.
55, by the way.
Is this an old person movie?
Yeah, this is a
Tombstone.
great old person
But
movie.
Tombstone's very
You
fast.
gotta
It's
dipping out
Val
again,
Kilmer.
slide back into the bushes.
It's the one where he says that I don't have any friends.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, they're sitting at the river, and it's right after White Earp gets them out of they're like caught in a crossfire. Crossfire. This is kind of the moment of the movie that kind of switches from where they're running all the time to when they actually overtake the bad guys or whatever. And they're in a crossfire and they're pinned down. And it's Wyatt Earp and Doc and their 3 other buddies. And Wyatt Earp gets up while all these guys are shooting at him from 2 different directions. And he just starts going, no, no, no. And he starts shooting. And he's shooting all these guys. And the other leader of the gang, the bad gang, comes out. And they kind of like face off. And the guy's trying to shoot Wyatt. And all the bullets just keep going around him. And Wyatt just kind of pulls his gun up. Boom, shoots the bad guy. And then right after that scene, they're sitting at the river. Like they get out of they chase the bad guys away. They're sitting at the river. And the one guy goes, well, where's Wyatt? And they said, he's probably down at the river walking on water. And then Doc is sitting there cleaning his gun, and he starts coughing because he has tuberculosis. And he got out of the hospital to come back and help Wyatt and them track down all the bad guys. And he has tuberculosis. He's dying. And they ask him, one of the other guys asked him, said, Doc, why are you here? You should be in the hospital somewhere. And he says, and this is the best part, he goes, Wyatt Earp is my friend. And he says,
Well, I got lots of friends.
well, heck, Doc, I got a lot of friends. And Doc says, well, I don't.
Oh,
No, that good shit.
Feels, baby.
Russell.
man, that
It's
kind of
right
goes.
in the feels,
That kind of goes
brother.
with the one I'm about to say.
I'm big on like friendship
Yeah.
and friend. I've always been loyal. Like my friends are my people. That's been my family my whole
Yeah.
life. And so whenever it has to do with like friendship, like that gets me in my feels. That's why my 2 favorite TV shows are Psych and Scrubs, because they have a black friend and a white friend and they're best friends.
Yeah.
And it's the whole show's about best friends.
Yeah.
And so I've always dug that one.
Yeah, that's kind of
honestly.
close, very close, reasoning-wise to what mine is. This is gonna out me as another nerd, but we've known that many times. But one of my favorite all-time movie scenes comes from The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King,
Old
and it's
person
close to
movie.
the end of the movie.
Russell.
Basically, for my generation, it is kind of old person movie. But it's a scene very close to the end of the movie, like the grand finale almost. And Frodo and Sam are climbing up Mount Doom, and Frodo is very weak and feeble and can't make the rest of it, and Sam's exhausted, and they're sitting there, and Sam is just like, we're so close, and he looks down at Frodo, who can't move anymore and is basically like almost dying, and he says, I can't carry this burden for you, but I can carry you. And he puts him on his shoulders and continues to take him up this mountain. And the first time I saw that, that literally almost made me cry.
Yeah.
Like, I was stirred with so much emotion. I was like, that is it.
Right.
Like, that is
Yeah.
what life
That's
is
what you
all
do.
about.
That's
Like,
right.
and I'm huge on friendship and
That's
loyalty
right.
too. Like, one of the things that can push my buttons most is disloyalty.
Yeah.
And like, just seeing that was huge. And it's a great scene. Like, I can't do it justice like with my
That's
own voice.
dope.
Like, the way that Sam says it is just
Was that
so.
in the third movie?
Yeah, that's Return of the King.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could probably find that on YouTube if y'all have a
Yeah.
chance. Just like look up like Sam carries Frodo or something like that.
That's
Return
cool.
of the King.
I may have to do that because if it wasn't 9 hours into the movie, I probably would have seen that scene.
Yeah.
But
It's so good. Like, it's just like,
He was in
I don't
the
know. It
bathroom.
embodies friendship
Oh, wow.
and loyalty, but also sacrifice.
Right.
And again, sacrifice I think is something that speaks very close
That's
to
true.
our hearts.
100%.
And it's just super moving. I could talk about a whole bunch of other
I
different
think
movie
Tim would
scenes,
love
but
you on that one because
Yeah.
he loves those movies and
Yeah,
books.
they're-
Yeah,
it's
I
so
could share
good.
about
There's a
that. I
lot.
can't make
There's
it
a lot
through
of
one.
good scenes and good lessons in
Sure.
those 3 movies,
Yeah, yeah,
just
for
alone.
sure.
But then you
Well, there
cover,
better
like-
be. They're 13 hours long between
I
the 3
pass
of them.
out.
Yeah.
I can't make it through one.
Oh, dude, I
Okay.
love
If they
it.
would have just cut out the 6 hours of walking in those 3 movies,
Well, you do know that
probably
there's
would've dug it.
you do know that
You know?
there's a theatrical version and then an extended version.
yeah.
I have
Theatrical
watched all
version's
of the extended
still an
version.
hour or
Oh
2
my
long.
God.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I love them though. I love super long movies. Like, if they're good movies, obviously. But yeah,
When I hear that Peter Jackson directed something, I really have to check my calendar to see if I can watch it. Like, what do I have for the next 3 days?
King Kong.
Because I'm about to break this up.
Sit
I
for
love
12
King Kong,
years
but I
watching
will
King
say
Kong.
this: I've never watched one of his movies I didn't like.
Yeah,
Like they're usually really good.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the,
I'm
hats off to
just-
Peter
that's the
Jackson.
trade-off right
Yeah.
there.
And on that note,
Yeah.
And on that note, yeah. for sure. You could say a ton of movies, like Lines.
That could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
My favorite thing.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
those.
guys, it's been a good show. I appreciate y'all.
Good to be back
Appreciate
in
everybody out
Columbus.
there listening. Yeah, good to be back in old C-Town. Cougars for life. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm glad you guys are listening out there in podcast world. Keep up with us at We Are Pursuit, letter R. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitterverse. Actually, we don't have a Twitter, but you can follow me on Twitter at P Mike Hofer. Follow me on Instagram, P Mike Hofer. Evan, you got an Instagram at Hot Beans fan page?
Yeah.
Noah,
Sorta.
At Noah in charge.
Chris.
At Hofer Mom.
You can follow all of us. Check us out. Send us any questions, comments, concerns. Mike at ccclive.org. If you want us to pray for you, go to pursuetoday.live. Pursuetoday.live, and there's a prayer spot on there. We'd love to pray for you, pray with you. Or hit us up on social media direct. We'd love to do that too. I'd like to pray us out. So, Father God, we just thank you for today. Thank you for all those listening. Thank you for your love. Thank you for creating us specifically, Father, on purpose and for a purpose. Father, may we all learn this week through the power of your Holy Spirit to spend time in silence and solitude. And Father, may you speak to your people now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. This has been Pursuit Table Talk. I'm Pastor Mike Hofer along with,
Evan Amon.
No, Barfield.
Kristen Hofer.
and we out.
I wish Mother was here.
This is the Candyland Hour for all good children. The orchestra will play our theme song.
You know that song, don't you?
Sure I do.
Well, then sing it.
Beep, hop, hop, blow. Beep, hop, hop.